Damn. 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 Damn.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back for another NFL offseason recap. Today we got the Eagles and the NFC East. So, the Eagles. I thought the Eagles had another good offseason. Speaking of which, just taking a look at some of their offseason key additions here. Their biggest name, obviously, Saquon Barkley. They also brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Two big signings. And they also brought in Bryce Huff, an edge rusher that they desperately needed, especially with all the retirements they've been having. They lost Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey to retirement. And it definitely strengthens their defense, as they did want to get rid of Hassan Reddick. And Bryce Young's a good replacement for Hassan Reddick. But is it the same level? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Hassan Reddick did go to the Jets. So that defense could be nasty. So the Eagles, I thought they had a pretty good offseason. The GM there always is able to rebuild this team to a point where they can compete. No matter who they got, they still got that. An offense is still pretty good. You got Jalen Hurts. He just has to stay more consistent with it, especially in the passing game. The O-line usually plays pretty solid, but they did lose Jason Kelsey, so that's going to take a hit. But they still have their weapons. Devontae Smith, Devontae Parker, Dallas Goedert. Or actually, no, they brought in Devontae Parker, actually. That's another key addition. And a low-key addition that I actually liked that the Eagles did was in the draft, in the 6th round, in drafting Johnny Wilson. He's a 6'6" wide receiver out of FSU. I thought he played well at FSU. And, yeah, I think he has what it takes to play good in the NFL too. It's just, I guess, a matter of developing. I'm not sure why he fell to the 6th round, but they fell to him right in his hand, right to the Eagles' hands. And of course, they always have a good draft. They had Quinyon Mitchell fall to them in the 1st round, huge. And then they had Cooper DeJean fall to them in the 2nd round, huge. They addressed the secondary. That was a huge need for them this offseason, as last year that secondary was struggling. They got Quinyon Mitchell there. Darius Slay still going to be the starting corner there in the CB1. They improved the safety by getting Gardner Johnson, and they still have Reed Blankenship. They have Cooper DeJean listed as a safety and a corner. So I don't know which. He could just be like that guy that just fills in the gap for them. He plays safety or corner. Hopefully he plays corner though, because that white team needs some more corners. So you got Cooper DeJean. Who else did? They added Devin White. So this strengthens the linebacker core. They got Kobe Dean, Devin White, Nolan Smith. But I'm sure they're going to be blitzing with Kobe Dean and Nolan Smith a ton too, especially in that Vic Fangio defense. A defense, Vic Fangio didn't do all that well with the Dolphins last year, but I think that was mostly because he was trying to get out of Miami and come to Philly, come back to where he wanted to originally, I guess. So, whatever he tried to do, it worked out, and this defense is honestly perfect for him. You got 2 young safety there with Kobe Dean, Nolan Smith out of Georgia. They can blitz. They also drafted Jermaine Trotter Jr. See what happens with him. And they got depth pieces on the defensive end side. They still have Brandon Graham. They just got Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat, and they got the Georgia guys in the interior. And yeah, just some other pieces they lost. They did lose DeAndre Swift and Kevin Byard. But again, they replaced Kevin Byard with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, upgrade. And who did they lose? They lost DeAndre Swift, but they got Saquon Barkley, upgrade. So the only true key losses is at center with Jason Kelsey. They did lose Fletcher Cox, but they got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis there. I'm not gonna see the upgrades, just respect out of Fletcher Cox, but yeah. So I think it was a huge win for the Eagles. Didn't do anything to think they downgraded. They definitely upgraded that roster, and Yeah, I mean, the only concern maybe come from the O-line. I mean, not really, because they still have Dickerson, Mariota, and Lane Johnson. So, not really a concern there. The defense, still watch out for his defense. His defense might go back to what it was a couple years ago. So, it's a nasty defense. So now we got the Cowboys. The Cowboys, they didn't do much this offseason. It became the meme this offseason as they didn't do much. So their key ads include Eric Hendricks and then their draft picks. So they get Tyler Guy something they needed to do to improve that line. They got Marshawn Nealons, an edge rusher, and Cooper Beebe to another lineman, the interior lineman. But they did lose a lot. They did lose Tony Pollard. They did lose Tyron Smith, Stephon Gilmore, Nevin Gallimore, and Tyler Biadasz. Tyler Biadasz. So, looking at this depth chart, the running back, they did get Ezekiel Elliott. That's another key ad because he might be the starting running back there. Either him or Deuce Vaughn or whoever it may be. Receivers are not looking good. I mean, they got CeeDee Lamb. Yes, he's an elite receiver. But then you got Brandon Cooks. He's pretty good. He's consistent. I'll say that. He's consistent. And you got Jalen Turpin, Brooks. Not the best depth there. Yeah, they got Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker. So the linemen, they got Tyler Guy to replace Tyron Smith. They got Tyler Guy and Tyler Smith. They got Cooper Beebe listed as a safe or a center. Strange. I thought he'd be playing guard. They still got Jack Martin and Terrence Steele, which is not ideal for tackle. So defense took a hit. Their strong suit is definitely in the secondary, as they have Trevon Diggs, Darren Bland, Malik Hooker, and Donovan Wilson. Now the D line, I mean, yeah, they got the Marcus Lawrence and Michael Parsons, but the interior is not looking all that great. I mean, they did get Mozzie Smith. He was a rookie last year. Linebackers, they had Eric Kendricks, but not looking all that great either. So this Cowboys team is in an interesting position where they mostly took losses this offseason. So I don't know what that means. They didn't spend much. They could just be saving all that money to re-sign Dak Prescott. So we'll see what happens with the Cowboys. But it looks like they took a hit. I don't know. I don't like what they did this offseason. So that's the Cowboys for you. So now it's time for the Commanders. The Commanders made some big moves this offseason. I like what they did. I like the direction they're heading in. Their offseason mostly consisted of offensive players, which they definitely need. And if you look at their additions, okay, so first of all, Washington, after last season, definitely needed a line. They needed a quarterback because they got rid of Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett. And they needed more, they need help on defense as well. And it's maybe another weapon because they did lose Curtis Samuel as well. So, you got Tyler Biadasz, pretty good center. They got Jeremy Chin out of the Panthers, a young safety who's been playing pretty solid. Austin Eckler, he's on the downslope. It seems like he's not all that fast, but he's still a receiving threat. So I think that'll pair him nice. That'll pair up nicely with. So they got Austin Eckler from San Diego. They got Austin Eckler out of Los Angeles Chargers, and he's a pretty good receiving back. I think that pairs well with Brian Robinson, where Robinson's going to take majority of the carries, and Eckler's going to be there for the passing downs. So he's definitely a threat there. That is Zach Ertz, depth for the tight end position. They got Marcus Mariota to address quarterback, Bobby Wagner, and then drafted Jaden Daniels and drafted Jerson Newton. So I like what they did. They got Marcus Mariota and Jaden Daniels in the quarterback room. And I don't know if Jaden Daniels will be starting. I think he has some work to do before he can start. So I can definitely see them rocking with Marcus Mariota first. The running back room, like I said earlier, they had Austin Eckler, but I think Brian Robinson's going to be taking majority of the carries. But Eckler does bring that receiving threat there. So I like what he did there. And then for receivers, they did bring in Luke McCaffrey too. He's listed as the third wide receiver here in the depth chart. And they still have Diami Brown. Terry McLaurin is still a weapon. Jahan Dotson, still pretty good. Now the O-line. They did get Biadaz. They still have Sam Cosby. Could still use a little work, but you can probably see like a turnaround happening. They might play better than expected. We'll see. As for the defense, the line, the interior is pretty strong. Darren Payne, Jonathan Allen, and they just drafted Jason Newton. Edge rush consists of Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong, but their linebacker group is still pretty good. Jamin Davis. They signed Bobby Wagner. He's up there in age. Is he going to play well? Not his elite level, but he'll probably make tackles here and there. And they got Frank Louvu. Now, the secondary, Emmanuel Forbes had a rough rookie year. We're hoping he steps up in the second year. We'll see what happens. They got Jeremy Chin to replace Cameron Curl and Benjamin St. Just. So, yeah, just taking a look at their losses. They lost Curtis Samuel. They lost Cameron Curl, Jacoby Brissett, Kendall Fuller, and Sam Howell. So I think it's hard to say that they digressed. I think they actually improved, and it's a good sign. They're probably not there to compete for the division yet, but they're heading in the right direction. This is going to take some time. They have Dan Quinn as their head coach, so the defense, he's mainly a defensive guy. So that defense is going to play better than they look. I think he's going to set up that secondary to play better than they look as well. So, now, lastly. So next we got the Giants. Now this is a team that finished 6-11 last year and finished 3rd in the NFC East. Everyone was questioning what they were going to do with Daniel Jones and what they were going to do with this team. And, you know, they did lose some talent. They did lose Saquon Barkley, Xavier McKinney, 2 huge pieces for that team, and Matt Peart as well. But, you know, they brought in some talent. You know, they did trade for Brian Burns. That's a huge move. And you pair him up with Kevon Thibodeau. That's a good edge rusher, like, combo right there. And you still have Sexy Dexy in the middle. Come on, Dexter Lawrence. You got your guy. And Nunez Roches, you got them there. So, I like where this defensive is headed. That D-line is going to be nasty, I think. They did sign John Runyon to address the O-line. They brought in Devin Singletary to help the running back room. They also brought in Drew Lock, who can potentially be starting for this team as soon as maybe when the season starts. So we'll see what happens. I think Drew Lock improved tremendously last year. So he balled out. He was able to beat the Eagles on Seattle, which I thought was a good win for him. Now, if you look at their draft, they had a pretty good draft. In the first round, they selected Malik Neighbors. That definitely helps out the wide receiver room. And then in the second round, they drafted Tyler Nubin to address the safety issue. Because they did lose McKinney, so they brought in Tyler Nubin. Just taking a quick look at the roster, you got Daniel Jones, Drew Lock competing for that starting job. As for the receiving threats, that was the big issue with this team. They still have Jalen Hyatt. I'm still a believer in him. And you just drafted Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton's pretty consistent. And then you got Wan'Dale Robinson. So we'll see how this wide receiver room shapes up. Now, another question is if Darren Waller is going to play this season or not. He's been contemplating retirement for a while. And if he doesn't, you still got Daniel Bellinger in there. He's a good backup tight end. Who knows what's going to happen with Darren Waller. So, I mean, if he's going to roll out and play, you got him. If he's not, you got a good replacement right there. Now, the O-line, you do have Andrew Thomas. You got Evan Neal. You just signed John Runyon. I think the O-line is going to be solid. Okay, let me put it this way. I think it's going to be improved from last year. So, I like the moves they made there. I know they didn't re-sign Saquon Barkley, but they did bring in Neighbors. They signed Singletary. Running back is not a very valued position nowadays. As far as the defense, I like the defensive line. I think that's a really good defensive line. As far as the linebackers, you still have Okereke. You got McFadden there, and then you still have Isaiah Simmons. Secondary, you got Deontay Banks. You still have Darnay Holmes there as well. So overall, I think it's tough. I think this team could surprise some people. Daniel Jones is going to be the make or break for this team, or Drew Lock, or whoever's starting at quarterback. Because I don't know, man. I don't know what to think of this team. I don't think they're one of the worst teams. And you got a good coach. You got Brian Dable. He makes average players play better. So I gotta think this team is gonna play better, or is gonna improve. So we'll see what happens with the Giants there. That concludes the NFC East. And just a quick look at overall in this division. I mean, the Eagles improved tremendously, and the Cowboys did not improve. So I think this is the Eagles' division for sure. Second place might be up for grabs. Maybe. I mean, I think that place might be reserved for the Cowboys. And third and fourth might be coming up for the Commanders or the Giants. I can see the Giants surprising some people, though. So watch out for the Giants there. And, yeah. That concludes this offseason recap of the NFC East. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below who had the best offseason. I think, personally, it had to be the Eagles. Worst offseason, probably the Cowboys. So, that concludes the video. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more offseason recaps and more content coming your way. Alright, catch you guys next time. Peace.